Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here today with you and two of my best friends in this industry. We've got Mel Smith, the managing director of global logistics at Aaversal Global Relocation. And we've got Hosea Bottley, the president, CEO, founder of Aaversal Global Relocation. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So many words, y'all. I'm trying to say all of them right. Get in the comments, hit that like button. Help me out if I miss a word or say it wrong. Throw it in the comments. We are going to be diving deep into global relocation, but also how companies are diversifying their business mix to adapt to the present business climate. This company, in my opinion, is doing it right. All week, we've been talking about moving companies that are diversifying and going into different areas. We had Hoover on Tuesday. They're talking about Final Mile and the stuff Mason's doing. We have, Ed Katz on from IOMI talking about commercial and O&I. And today we've got Aaversal Global Relocation talking about global logistics and what they're doing. But first, get in the comments. I want to know who you are. I want to know where you are. And I want to know what you're thinking. If you're thinking. Tim Quirk says this show is going to be off the hook. Tim, I'm sorry to disappoint you. There are no refunds. Hit that like button. Love Tim Quirk out there at Road Sense. Ben, you are the thorn between two roses. Tim's getting. Tim,
that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Tim on up there in Rochester. Tim, you're getting romantic on me over here. My goodness, I'm married. Ray Abbott, good afternoon, Hosea, Mel, and Ben. What's up, Ray from Canada?
Ray.
Allison from McDaniel from Alaska.
Wow.
Hosea, you know something about Alaska?
I know a lot about Alaska.
Man, that's a lot of how Hosea, for a lot of your career, and get in the comments with questions, and we'll just kind of go whatever direction you want to take us out there if you're watching this. So get in the comments and ask questions. It's always more fun. But Alaska, real quick, Hosea, you started your career at an Atlas agent that specialized in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like moving in Alaska?
Well, it depends on what points of Alaska you're going to.
Yeah, it's big. It's like
half the Fairbanks, Juneau. It's pretty standard, you would say. But when you get out to the bush, the Nome, Alaska, then places like that, it's quite challenging, But that's what these small airplanes are for. You can get it from Anchorage by air to Nome and places like that,
So they're doing air shipments. That's the best way to get across, like from Nome.
Yeah. Well, they unload it out of the container or trailers, put it on pallets, household goods, send and fly out the pallets along with the crews, and then they rent a truck and then they deliver it, or vice versa.
Crazy question. You paying for the crew members by weight or volume?
That's just the standard pricing, man.
Standard price.
But
okay,
it's expensive once you get past those major points. It gets a little bit more expensive.
But I always like that. I always say the margin is in the mystery. So, what people don't understand is, frankly, how we make money as service providers. If it's straightforward and obvious, people will just run a U-Haul and do it, right?
Yep.
So, and I think that's kind of where we're going to go here today and talk a little bit about some of the things people don't understand about global logistics. We've got a shout out to Will Joyce Jr. in Indy.
Indy.
What's up, Will? Good to see you. Remember that steak we had here in Dallas? Adrian in the house. What up, Adrian? Go Texas Rangers. Won the World Series last night. Annie Ream. Look at this.
Yeah.
Happy to see you, Mel. I've heard great things about you. Wow, the rumors are true, Mel.
My mother's been putting a lot of phone calls in, I think.
If Mel's mom's out there, get in the comments. It's always fun with the parents checking. Chris Lagerman, what's up, fellas? What's up, Chris?
Chris.
This is great. Hit that like button if you've got comments or questions for Hosea or for Mel. If you just want to say hey with a whole bunch of Y's, vowels are free here on the show. Jillian, my fave. Hey, Hosea, super excited to hear from Mel as well. Heard many amazing things. Wow. Rumor mill's working overtime. Jose, I got to get into this. Okay. You've been a friend of the show for a long time. You've been a great personal friend, client of Glomo. Love you, man. You've been on a lot. And obviously we know that Aaversal Global Relocation does international household goods shipments.
Yep.
A lot of people might know that you also do domestic small shipments very well.
Correct.
But this whole global logistics thing, like freight and whatnot, that's a new thing. Where'd that come from?
Well, it's been on my radar, and I think we've discussed it a few times over the last couple of years about how do I approach, when do I move forward with the freight division? And looking at today's economy, looking at the direction we were going this year, I seized the perfect time to say, now is the time. And then when I got an opportunity to interview Mel, it just all started coming together.
It's really interesting because this year has been really hard for like corporate relocation. I know you do a lot of corporate relocation. I know you do a lot of government agency relocation and whatnot, but a lot of those verticals are down, 10, 20, 30%, sometimes more, for certain types of movers. I don't know how Aaversal is doing. I think you're probably outperforming the general marketplace. But a lot of companies are really scared right now and afraid to make an investment in their business to grow and to kind of zig when other people are zagging, right? Warren Buffett once said, be greedy when people are scared and be scared when people are greedy, right? So what gave you the confidence really to make a move and kind of make I don't want to say a full pivot, but an adjustment and kind of go after a new market like global logistics?
Well, first of all, I saw that there's some opportunity out there, and I just think it's time for Aaversal to go furthermore into the global aspect of it. So in order to do that, we got to first of all get these accounts on board, which we're doing a great job of bringing these accounts on board. But the opportunity is there. So when we want to continue to expand into Africa and Asia, we got to make sure the volume is there. The volume is beginning to come in. So, we want to now pivot and start looking at opening these offices in Africa and Asia beginning the first quarter of next year.
And Mel, okay, you got more. Okay, go ahead.
No, I said, and that which bleeds into why it was an amazing opportunity to interview Mel and just have the vision that we both on the same page. And I tell you, just the interview process was something special, Ben. I think that I've never done this before, but I interviewed Mel on a Monday. We were so excited. We interviewed again on a Tuesday. At the end of the interview, I said, Mel, I'm coming to DC. I gotta sit down with you face to face. Flew out to DC. We talked for 6 hours straight, and it was like we talked for an hour. It was just, we were just connected.
I hope you guys don't plan on doing 6 hours today. That's not what this is.
If that wasn't enough, we met for dinner and talked another 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I just think we're so aligned and our vision is so on the same page of where we can take this next step from a true global perspective. So we're definitely excited about the direction we're going here.
Mel, I want to ask you, what was it about Aaversal that really appealed to you, and what do you see the opportunity being?
That's a great question. I'd known about Hosea and Aaversal for some time, and I never had the pleasure of meeting him. And, as fate has it in life, the way life works out, we had a chance to speak. And just like Hosea said, when I met him, I've never had that experience before, on any type of interview or initial meeting, where it was just non-stop. It was like I was talking to someone I'd known all my life. And not just someone I'd known all my life, but a great friend all my life, because it was like you're connecting those dots together mentally, right? And then it extended to dinner, and we could have probably talked all night, honestly, about the plans and the visions, and more importantly, the strategy to support those visions. It's great to have those ideas, and I think that's the thing that really cemented it for me with Hosea, is that the vision is you could wake up inspired and have a fantastic vision or dream, but then when you start putting the pieces in place, and that's what he was eager to do, to put the pieces in place, to create the strategy to make that success.
Yeah, I love it.
That was it.
I love it. I love it. Andy Ream saying that's the best type of interview. The ones that just don't stop, right? They're slated for 30 minutes. You go an hour and 15, or they're slated for an hour and you talk for 10. Okay, maybe that's a little weird, but nonetheless, it works for y'all, and I'm happy. This is great. Erica Burton checking in. Hey, fellas. Chase checking in. What's up, Erica? Good to see you.
Okay.
Ray Hardy. What's up, Ray? Yo, hey, by the way, Jose, I got to let you know, shout out to Ray. Ray and I are officially friends now. He accepted my LinkedIn request yesterday. So this is pretty epic stuff now. I've only known Ray for 2.5 years. So this is excellent. Thank you, Ray, for that. Adrian Grimes, Texas Rangers World Series champs. What's up, Adrian? Adrian was partying in the parking lot last night till 2 a.m. This is great. Andrew Walker checking in. Hi, guys. What's up, Andrew?
Andrew.
One of the great guys in this industry. But I want to go back to when you started booking this freight. Hosea, when did you start your freight business in earnest? When did you start moving loads? How long ago was that? August. So we're like 4 months into this noble experiment right now of moving freight, and what type of freight? Because I mean, people out there are moving household goods. People that are watching this right now are in the moving industry, the relocation industry, largely, and they don't even understand what freight of all kinds is even about. I mean, right. How big this industry is. Hosea, what types of freight are you moving?
Well, we're moving anything from pandemic kits to bulletproof vests to water to generators to whatever they need to move. And
so basically doomsday prepping, basically.
Whatever it needs to be done. Right now, we're focused on mostly government accounts.
I was going to say, who's moving all these bulletproof vests?
But that will change eventually, starting in the first quarter of next year. We'll start looking at what kind of corporate opportunities out there. But like I said, we're still just setting and establishing the foundation of how we want to continue to build this freight division. And so we're ready. We're excited.
Now, is most of this so far year to date been domestic U.S. or overseas?
Well, we've had some. We got a little bit of international. Not much yet, but we've had some to Puerto Rico. We've got some Alaska opportunities, but most after that is the lower 48.
So I got to ask you, Mel, now you're here, and I notice your title is Managing Director of Global Logistics. What do you see the opportunity being, and where are those kind of interesting pockets of the world that you see being growth opportunities?
Well, those are really good.
Thank you.
A good question too. So you're very welcome. You're going to see a lot of opportunities in sub-Saharan Africa. Some of the places with more challenged infrastructure, you're definitely going to see opportunities coming in places in Europe for obvious reasons from conflict. You're going to see things probably once again because of conflict arising going on. If you're following the news, you'll understand that the United States contractors and those people support the Department of State or Department of Defense often have a role to play in mitigating and managing conflicts. And then from an economic development standpoint, you look at where the areas in the world where there's potential for growth. Not that the United States or North America is tapped out, but there's a great transportation infrastructure already here. And there's a lot of human capacity here, right? So that whether you go through the military and learn logistics, whether you go get a degree in logistics, whether you come up through the industry, there are an extremely large knowledge base and resources. So you're looking for places without me telling everybody where to go, where resources may be limited. The carriers may not have the type of well-rounded industry experience that you come out of the United States or Western Europe for that matter. So those and places where there are health crises. And some of those are not on people's radars, but or natural disasters.
Yeah, super interesting stuff. I want to learn more about this. I don't just want the sauce. I want the recipe. Okay, Mel. Ray Abbott saying outstanding vision, Hosea. Lynn, look at Lynn checking in. It's good to see Lynn out here. I saw Lynn in the Bay at BAM. Hit that like button. I want to hear your questions. I find this stuff fascinating. I mean, when I hear freight, I think truckload, water to water US, right? Maybe you're moving you know, product. You're going to Walmart and dropping off TVs or whatever. Water even makes sense to me, right? But when you're talking about conflict zones, I mean, are you talking about like Ukraine, Middle East? I mean, what do you know, how do you even like that stuff to me like boggles my mind.
All those boxes, you know, were ticked. I was very fortunate to be able to be mentored in an earlier part of my career by someone who also had the experience of going into some of these areas, going to the Balkans and learning how to run the transportation route, vet your supply chain. I was earlier in this year in the Ukraine.
You're cutting up. You're cutting out a little bit on me, Mel. You're cutting a little bit. But did you say you're over in the Ukraine earlier this year?
Oh, I was. Yeah, I was earlier in this year in February. I was in the Ukraine, in Lviv. You know, it was safe at the time in the western part of the country, across the border from Poland into Lviv, and that was really to get a good understanding of how cargo was going to flow into the country, understanding access points, the clearance process, the logistics challenges, warehousing yards, what available resources were in the country. So those are the type of things that stay on the front foot. You really need to investigate and explore, right, as soon as possible. There was a conference that I attended a couple of years ago, and one of the speakers on the panel used to said, you know, stage 0 is too late.
What does that mean?
If the conflict arises and you're hearing it in the public forum, hey, we need this, we need that, you're too late to the game already. You have to be steps ahead. You got to stay up to speed on what's going on around the world, what logistics challenges are. You know who the partners are going to be ahead of time. Understand access points, primary and secondary routes. Know your air and ocean port operations. Know the clearance process. You've got to be ready to go before the word go.
That's really interesting. That reminds me of a banker once told me about the stock market. He says, buy the rumor, sell the news. So by the time it's in the news, it's too late. But if you're like, you know, but if you got the inside track and you're hearing the rumor or whatever, you know, that's when you're in the know. That's fascinating. What was it like being on the ground in the Ukraine? Was it scary? I mean, what was that like?
It was surreal. I was scared before I went. Okay. And when you get there and you see the normalcy in which people are going about their lives, some of that starts to dissipate. And then when you start speaking to people who are really looking at the realities of, you know, being cold in the winter, not having food, having young children and wanting to make sure that their children are going to be okay, families breaking up, some staying behind, some going on. The fact that, you know, crossing the border, which I did on foot, there were no men at the border working at the border crossings. The only women. The men were potential conscripts, right? So that was an interesting process. But the thing that was the stark reality of people going about their lives. I mean, you'd walk by a building, there'd be sandbags packed up in the windows. You check into the hotel, and the first thing they show you is where the bomb shelter is, and let you know the generators are going to be clicking in because they got more generators. So living in that reality for people day to day, unbelievable. But people were really matter of fact and actually glad to see American faces or hear English, because they thought, hey, these people haven't forgotten us.
Wow. That's powerful stuff, you know. Wow, you really paint a picture there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hosea, you going to Ukraine?
Possibly.
Sheesh. So I'm familiar with, like, you know, challenges we have in the States, right? I can't even use the word challenges with like a straight face, right? driver shortage, you know, hours of service is like kind of too crazy, you know. I mean, but what types of challenges, you know, are you facing in a country like you know, Ukraine, and what's going on? Like, how are the challenges different?
Oh, those are good questions. I mean, the reality of it is that they're in a conflict and there's limited access. You know, there are no ocean ports, right? So you have to bring it through primary, secondary countries. So, and those are clearly, you're talking about border ports that are being shared by other countries. So backlog issues, transportation issues once you get to the border where things onward are being carried by Ukrainians drivers only. All the things you have to think about in terms of that you deal with, but we don't have to deal with necessarily because our country, the United States, is so large, right? The cross-border issues, the onward clearance, where you're going to lay down secured yards, because the threat of hijacking or the threat of people literally losing their lives is real, not by road accidents, right? So by acts of war. Curfews. So transportation curfews. You can't be on the road, I think between midnight and 5 a.m. unless you're traveling, going to a train station or something like that. So limited. We have to factor that in when you're talking about moving your goods onward into the east of the country. The positive about that is the relationship you develop by being out there, the knowledge you gain, the relationships that you have to be able to support any mission that you might want going forward, including security. Those things are all really, really invaluable. And there are some organizations that are doing a fantastic job of that already. And so hats off to them.
You talk about some of the challenges, and I mean the fact of loss of life being a real threat and everything. And you see the footage on the news and everything. I mean, there's explosions and things of that nature. I mean, we insure cargo here, and we got on a household goods shipment, you got a 20% claim rate now. What's the insurance situation even like? When you're talking about shipments in a conflict zone.
There's war risk surcharges that you pay for, right?
Like 300%. Like what is the fact? Like how much more does that cost to insure something?
Yeah, I'm still working right now with my on my liability for a lot of this freight. So I'm working with the insurance companies on that stuff right now because, like you said, the war risk and so I'm creating a whole new policy for that.
Super interesting stuff here. Keep those questions coming. I find this stuff fascinating. I'm really interested in. If you've got questions for Hosea, for Mel about global logistics, about even household goods questions too. I mean, it's all on the table. David Yakum has a question. Appreciate you, David. Ray saying Mel is logistically sound. Yes, that is factual.
I'm very fortunate. I was trained by a lot of good operations people, and I think one of the things that's the coolest about sitting down with Hosea initially was that he has a military background. And while I was in the military, I came out of a military family, and it's the mindset that he has in terms of a lot of the people that I associate with in some of these organizations, a majority of them come from military backgrounds. And so it was like I could say something to him and it didn't miss a beat. You understood the idea of preparedness, the idea of opportunity, the idea of, changing on the fly or having a plan and then that plan having to change.
Yeah, it's funny because in a civilian's life, the word preparedness is not in the lexicon, right? And yet it's a key tenet of military life. Jana Chesanowski, we have Brazil in the house.
Jana.
What's up, Jana? Have you been to Brazil, Mel?
Hey, Jana. Hey. Never.
Yet.
Yeah.
Anandita checking in from USI Law. We love Anandita, managing director there. Jason Hall, Jay Hall from USI Law. What's up, Jay? Let's see. David Yakum. All right, this is a question. I don't know what this means. So y'all got to help me here. David says, do you ever legally change the harmonized tariff code to reduce or eliminate duties and taxes for your customers? Have you had any challenges with cargo exams? So there's like kind of two questions here. So the first one, he says legally change the harmonized tariff code to reduce and eliminate duties and taxes for your customers. Is that possible? Do you do
it? Right now, no, we have not done that. Right now what we're moving is government freight. So there's no duties and taxes that's going to apply. So, and really so far, no cargo exams as of yet, but the day is still young.
Yeah. So talk about when you say a cargo exam, tell people that are the uninitiated what a cargo exam is.
That's when customs pull the container for a full exam. And there's a lot of charges always associated with that exam as well, you know. And it depends on how in depth they want to go into the container. You know, if they want to pull everything out of the container, or they pull half of it out so they're satisfied. But the only problem with that, they can never get it back in the container.
They don't get the same density, you mean, that these are professional movers have got?
They cause more damage than was already there in most cases.
What are they looking for?
I give you an example. Years ago, I had a shipment come from Ghana. It was a federal government agency, and no, I'm sorry, it was from Thailand, and they were waiting on this container.
Okay.
Somebody had tipped them off, and there was a federal agent, and they went through it, and they confiscated about half of the container, but they found what they were looking for, which was illegal elephant tusk. Yeah.
Wow. Was there a lot of tusk, or was this like a private collection?
It was just his own private collection, but they knew it was there because the people at origin had already tipped them. And yeah, that didn't go very well for that government employee, I can tell you that.
It was a tusk tip.
Tusk tip, yeah.
Wow, those are the biggest ones. Like Evan Miller, looking good. Thank you, Evan. You know, I thought nobody would mention it. And great to see you, Hosea. I noticed you didn't mention Hosea was looking good, Evan. You really should have done that. Glad this is happening here today, and I'm looking forward to meeting Mel hopefully soon. Evan, keep that hair nice out there in Chicago. I saw the snow. Evan was trick-or-treating in the snow. Dad of the year out there. And then he's promoting. Of course, he's going to plug the GWERC meeting on 12/6, the Greater Washington Employee Relocation Council meeting on December 6th. That GWERC, those GWERC events are good. I went to a bowling event. You guys ever go GWERCing out there in the district?
I have. Back in the old days, I was actually the program director back in the early 2000s for GWERC.
Nice. Yeah, we might have to. So 12/6, there's a meeting, huh? Might have to check that out there, Evan. Appreciate the shout. And thanks for all you do also for the foundation.
Wasn't as exciting as bowling.
Yeah.
Yeah. My meetings weren't as exciting as bowling. I think they got me beat.
That's great. That's great. I saw at the last GWERC event, actually, I saw Steve from the Aaversal team.
Yeah.
Hanging out there.
Steve will be there for sure. I'm not sure where I'm going to be at yet.
Yeah. Let's see here. Nan Park here from USI Law. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, no problem.
I was talking to you, Hosea. Very cool. Excellent. Really interesting. Now, I want to understand a little bit. Now, you're going into this new, amazing, it sounds like an enormous opportunity. It sounds like you are extremely well researched and educated about this. I mean, boots on the ground in Ukraine, can't beat it. But let's talk a little bit about the technology required to do this. I mean, is this something you can plug and play with your current systems, or do you have to kind of go out and get new technology? What are the requirements? I mean, are there data security and other types of things that you have to worry about that are different? Help me understand a little bit of that.
Jose, do you want to
talk about that? Right now, you know, I mean, our current system, I would say maybe, I don't know, Ben. We still got a lot of research that we're doing, you know, and you know, if new software or technology is required, we'll definitely want to get it. We'll make that change. We'll make that turn.
Mel, I mean, when you talk about there's language, I mean, gosh, I mean, currency, right? You know, I mean, are these issues that require new types of technology, or what are the requirements?
Fortunately, you know, you've got Hosea, who's been running organizations who understand. You know, we're talking about working with different currencies globally. Everybody really speaks English, and that's a good thing for the most part. You know, you're always going to find someone who speaks English. The way the company currently operates, no, there's not going to be anything that needs. There's only going to be enhancements. We can get it done today. That's not an issue. You have the knowledge base, the operations base, the leadership to get it done today. It's about being able to talk to your client about the specifics, about how things move. I think without a doubt, Hosea is one of the most trusted people in this industry. And if he says he's going to get it done, he's going to get it done. So it's only about now just refining and fine tuning, right? So Someone said something to me a couple of months ago, which I really liked. And it's like, when Henry Ford wasn't trying to set out to invent a car, he was trying to get from point A to point B faster, right? That was the whole idea, or carts or anything. No one necessarily says, I want to go to the moon. That I want to invent a rocket. And so what's the process? We knew that we couldn't get there by flying planes and not by taking a kite. And so we understand what we need to do to get from point A to point B. And during the process of it's going to be continuing improvement, streamlining, and finding the best practices to suit our clients' needs.
Yeah, interesting.
And also, Ben, we have an amazing agency network, worldwide that we already have plugged in, basically, honestly, waiting at our disposal. We've talked with our agencies over in Africa at great extent, and we'll continue to do that as well. So we continue to build from there,
How much of your existing network are you utilizing and relying on versus, potentially having to do agency development? I mean, you have been doing global logistics for the entirety of your company's history, what, I don't know, 7 years maybe now. And obviously your career spans, 50, 60 years.
30.
Sorry, 30.
Combined,
guess.
combined, right?
Combined years. Yeah, combined years. No, but I mean, is it as simple as just what's inside the can changes, or do you need like a different supply chain?
No. I mean, as far as Africa itself, our existing supply chain is there. They're ready. We've had numerous conversations and Zoom meetings with those guys, and they can handle the household goods and the freight, And those same entities are across the board over in Asia as well. So when we're looking at Vietnam and other places like that, we're already in place, But once Aaversal continue to expand from an employee point of view over in Asia and employee point of view over in Africa, we just continue to connect the dots.
I love it. Hit that like button. Speaking of connecting the dots, connect your finger to the like button, smash that a couple times, get in the comments, put your questions, give your shout outs. I want to know what you think, what questions you have about global relocations, global logistics, expanding your business, going into different verticals. I want to hear from you out there. We got our good friend, Vinny, checking in here.
Hey, Vinny.
Hey, Vinny.
It's great hanging out with Hosea in Denver. Cheers from Portland. Love it, Vinny. That's what's up. Yeah, get in the comments, y'all. I want to know what your thoughts are there.
I have a question for you, Ben.
Uh-oh.
I mean, as you've seen this year unravel, what do you see?
Unravel's a good word.
Unravel.
Some might say unfold, but unravel's probably more apropos.
Yeah. When you look at these companies that are not diversified, most of them that are all corporate, I mean, I'm very, very thankful and blessed that we are diversified and we continue to push the envelope on that. But what do you see some of these companies that like all corporate and the volume just dropped dramatically the way it did,
It's a great question, right? It's a great question. And what I love about your strategy, Hosea, is that you took the pieces that you had and you just kind of like reapplied them to a different market. Like you already had the sea lift. You already had the network of international agents that were fantastic in all these countries, right? You already even had relationships with the government agencies and you were doing relocation. You just decided, hey, by the way, you got any freight? Yeah. Yeah, actually, we have a lot of freight here. Take it, right? And so you already had all the pieces. And I mean, yeah, you are, one excellent, piece of talent away from putting the whole puzzle together in Mel, right? But you largely had the entire infrastructure you needed. You just need to sprinkle a little know-how and a little bandwidth on top, and all of a sudden, boom, you got a sundae. You put a cherry on that thing, you got a sundae, and Mel's the cherry, right? We always say that about Mel, right? But I love that about what you've done. And so many moving companies, to your question, are out there with all the pieces they need to diversify themselves. They're just missing a little bit of know-how or a key piece of a talent in their organization that's seen it and done it before and has put boots on the ground in that marketplace, right? To come in and actually teach them how to reconfigure, their puzzle pieces to make a new picture. So I think that there's a lot of companies out there that are just doing the same thing, expecting a better result. And it's sad. It's sad to see because they're taking it in the shorts this year. I mean, they're down 30%, sometimes more if you're just doing corporate work, you know? And are you just doing domestic or are you also doing international? And I think it's really important. I think if this year taught us anything, it's the power of diversification in business. I'll tell you, as a recruiter, the number one job type that we are hearing right now that's in demand is strategic salespeople. People that can go out and get new business. The second most in demand job type that we're hearing right now is strategic leaders, people who can map out a structure and a new product and service offering.
You know, when Mel and I were talking, you know, I was like, what's the key point? What was missing from your previous job opportunities? And to me, I felt like he didn't get the support he needed. So I said, hey, look, we already have a government division. Go sell it. We already have a corporate division. Go get it. We already have a domestic small shipment. Go get it. Together, we can build an amazing freight department.
Yeah, you know, and I think a lot of employees would say that they don't get the support they need. I think a lot of employees would say they're not empowered to make the decisions or to follow the vision that they see out there, or to respond to the voice of the customer, right? I think a lot of people would say that. And I think as owners of companies and CEOs and leaders, we have to look in the mirror and say, what's holding us back from giving them the go ahead, from giving them the green light, you know? And I think if we're truthful with ourselves, there's a scarcity mindset that exists and really creeps up and starts just becoming raging and inflamed when there's all this uncertainty and trepidation in the marketplace, right? So I think we have to look at ourselves and find a lot of courage at the C-suite, because it all rolls downhill.
You know, it's hard to do new things, to change your behavior and to create new patterns, right, for success. And, you know, people that have been in this industry and been very successful, you know, you understand that tried and true for them has worked. They've been very successful. They've become accustomed to doing things a certain way. But you know, there are a couple sayings that I live by, that I heard when I was a kid. Fortune favors the brave and fortune favors the bold. It's not going to always work out the first time you give it a shot, right? There are a lot of people who come out of the box swinging and all excited about doing stuff. But then I go back to the story of Henry Ford, and the Model T is called the Model T because Model A through S did not work. They were failures. That's a true story.
That's a great story. Yeah.
So you got to be bold. You got to persevere. You have to recognize that it's not going to always work out the first time. You're not going to hit a home run the first time you swing. And that ties into something else on the questionnaire you asked me about people who are underrated and, you know, and things like that. You know, there's a lot of people in our industry that are underrated because they do things in a very steady, very quiet, very productive way. And at the end of the day, end of their career, they're Hall of Famers.
Yeah. Wow. We got some comments coming in here. Lynn saying the future is now. Love that. Jason Hall.
Thank you, Lynn.
Good to see you. Non Parks got a question. Sounds like really smart. So you guys better focus. All right. Says, what types of volatilities do you expect to see in 2024 in terms of U.S. election season coming up? What should we proactively focus on or be prepared for? And which candidate are you endorsing? Wow. Just kidding.
Okay. That's a really involved question. It sounds like, you know, you work for one of the political news networks out here in the DC market. It's a great question. And you know, I'm not from DC, and people from outside the area kind of like to cast DC as a place where things don't get done, or that it's bogged down and things like that. And maybe if I hadn't been here for the time that I had been here, might have interpret it the same way, but that's not at all what I see it as. You got to pay attention to what's happening, because, you know, let's face it, the federal agencies are drivers of opportunities for its contractors, for especially as we're talking specifically about its TSPs. What's going on domestically, right? We saw disasters in Hawaii, right? There's transportation requirements to manage that. So you saw disasters in Puerto Rico. You saw disasters that most people, off Oconus disasters that happened. It's very important that you pay attention to what's going on from an agency perspective. That a lot of what happens in agencies in terms of budgeting, some of it is not related to the politics, whether it's a Republican or Democratic administration. So you just need to be aware proactively, as you said, Nan. Pay attention to what's going on. You know what's going on if you're paying attention to some of the news right now. What's happening with some of the crises, the challenges going on around the world, and budgeting being voted on for those crises, to manage those crises. That's what you need to be aware of. You don't have to be political, but you have to be aware of what your government and federal agencies are doing.
That was a very sophisticated sidestep of the question. I appreciate that very much. You say you're not from the Beltway, but you did a nice job dodging that one. I'll be honest with you, Mel. Hosea, I'm gonna nail you down with a yes or no question. Okay.
Okay.
Business will increase next year. Yes or no?
Yes.
That was too easy. Okay.
Well, not maybe the first or second quarter, but it will.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, right? So what I'm seeing out here, and this is pure conjecture. Don't make any financial decisions based on this advice. Please consult a professional. But what I've heard is 6 out of 10 election years, interest rates go down. I think interest rates are the number one thing right now that are creating what I'm going to use air quotes, a perceived economic issue right now in this country. I say perceived because I think we're still at 3.83% unemployment right now. The fact that unemployment hasn't really materially risen is what's keeping inflation, higher than the Fed is their target, which means that interest rates are going to continue to stay high in order to try to kind of push that inflation number down. I think it's interesting economically right here because we have kind of a tale of two Americas, right? And this has been the case, frankly, for a while, right? Where we have some people who feel like we're in a recession and some people who are doing really just fine and spending quite freely. And that's why, consumer spending is very strong right now, while at the same time, consumer sentiment and consumer confidence is actually quite low right now. And so it's kind of a disconnect right now. And some, two groups are feeling two different types of ways right now. So I think it's really interesting. I do think we're going to see change next year in the election. I'm going to go for unfortunately, but just looking at presidential approval rates right now, Biden's at I think 40% right now. I don't know that he's going to win there, but I do think if interest rates go down and all of a sudden people can start buying houses, which, oh, by the way, if you're in the moving and relocation industry, is phenomenal. And when that interest rate goes down, and I'm going to put a number like 5 out there, if we can get this thing down to 5 from what is it, 7.5 right now or something like that, if we get this thing down around 5, oh my gosh, I think you're going to see so many people coming off the sidelines looking to buy houses. You're going to see people starting to be willing to sell because now they can buy back into the market. And frankly, even though they're not going to be buying in at a 2% or a 3% interest rate, they're going to come in at a 5. They're going to be okay with that because coming off 7.5, it's going to feel like, a deal. Right. So I think that we're going to see, the question is that Q1? Is that Q2? Is that Q3? A lot of people are saying Q3. I do think it will be before the election, even though they say that the Federal Reserve and the executive branch, there's not a relationship there. I do think some pressure can be exerted there. So I think that I think we're going to see some reprieve. A lot of people are talking flat next year. I was hearing that a lot on the West Coast in the Bay Area, that they were looking at a flat year. I mean, they got their teeth kicked in this year. 250,000 people got laid off in tech jobs this year. Most of those sitting in that Bay Area, right? So, I mean, I think they're saying flat out there, which is crazy down for that region. But it can't be worse than this year. But I think, to be honest with you, a flat year would be welcome for a lot of business owners because the revenue volatility of the last 3 years is what killed us. If you give us like a little bit of certainty, even though it's not where we want it to be, some certainty so that we can actually staff to it appropriately and therefore be profitable would be very nice. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Very cool. Thank you for letting me get on my soapbox there. Kill some time. Paul here. I was gonna say L8, late arrival, but L8
today.
That's good to hear, L. But at least I'm in the house. What up, Hosea, Ben, and the new guy, Mel? You're the new guy, Mel. You know that?
Thank you. I've been around.
You've been around a while.
Good to be the new guy.
Yeah, man. You've been around. You've worked in some really cool places. Can you just give people who may not know, like kind of like a real quick, like kind of rundown of some of the cool things you've done?
Sure. Well, I actually started my career as an insurance broker in Manhattan. I was working in financial services, placing risk on third-party liability in excess of $1 million in premium. So that was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot about being a broker and a service arranger, which I think really applies to this job. I ended up answering an ad in a paper. That's how long ago it was, in a paper.
Dude, I remember. I got a job off a newspaper in 2006. What year was your job off the newspaper?
1994.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What was it? The Gannett? Was it the Gannett paper in Westchester?
Oh, it was the Penny Saver.
Oh, man. What kind of job you get out the Penny Saver, man? Jeez Louise. That should be your first red flag right there when you get a job out the Penny Saver. This may not pay well.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is one of the best stories of my life in terms of how I got the job. I was actually got into a car accident, and I was sitting around killing time waiting for the adjuster to come. It was wintertime. And I answered the job for someone who was looking for an insurance manager. I was like, sure, I've got time to kill. I went in. It was Interconnex. They gave me a geography exam.
Yeah.
And the only thing I didn't get right was I didn't know where Stavanger, Norway was. I'd never heard of Stavanger. Then
where the hell is that?
At the time, Stavanger, Norway. It's a port city in Norway. Yeah. So anyway, Monica A.D. was the president at the time, interviewed me in German. And she said to me, after speaking to me in German, she's like, you ever think about working in sales? And I was so naive about shipping at that time. I thought sales were like Aristotle Onassis stuff. That's what I thought shipping was.
Like
shipping.
selling
I was like,
boats?
sure, I'm going to be No, just moving on. All I thought was billionaire shipping. That's all I thought. I was like, this sounds like it would be very good. Anyway, I ended up working for them and then going and then ended up going to Munich to work for Interdine for a couple of years, working on the trucks, starting to export, pack, and wrap. And it was an incredible experience. I did it also I wanted to really improve my German language skills, and ended up coming back to the States and working for a few very reputable and successful corporate movers in Orlando. That I got an opportunity to get a promotion and increased opportunity with one of those movers, and that brought me to DC in about 2000. And I was very fortunate to land with an organization that was led by a late John Connolly, who mentored me really in understanding the duty exam process for Project Cargo and working with relief and development organizations in the developing world. And that really helped me to learn the difficult process of moving cargoes into places like Afghanistan, Iraq, South Sudan, Libya, Sub-Saharan Africa. And he gave me the opportunity then to go and help establish representation for our company in Doha, Qatar. After living in Germany for about 2.5 years, I ended up spending about a year in Doha over the course of about 20 trips. So a great experience. It led me to where I am today, to be able to offer some of the knowledge and share some of the knowledge, and also glean the incredible experiences from Hosea and Aaversal and the Aaversal team.
Wow. Yeah, that experience overseas is amazing. I mean, it's so invaluable. I just see the way that you're applying it right now. I think it's hilarious that you thought you were going to go be Aristotle Onassis and you end up on a truck moving furniture. But hey, we all got to start somewhere, right?
Tell you, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh because I'll tell you that the thing that got me that job. This was the best part of this story. I came back to interview with the owner of Interconnect at the time, a gentleman by the name of Lionel H. I know it's owned by a different group now, but that was the old days, right? The old days. And I went to the interview and I was running late. It was a horribly cold day. I had to borrow my dad's car. He was doing an overnight shift, and dropped the car off. And I driving to White Plains, New York.
White Plains?
Yeah, places near and dear to your
where I grew up.
Heart. White Plains. Yeah, that's right, near and dear to our heart. We are rivals.
That's right. You were an Austin guy, weren't you?
Sports rivals. The Big O, Austin, New York. That's right. So anyway, I show up at the interview, and the receptionist steps out of the from behind her desk to excuse herself, as I'll be back in 5 minutes. And for some reason, I popped up and ran to her desk, and totally out of order, peeked over the desk, and I saw the phone roster, and the first name on the phone roster. I was like, how many people could have a name like that? This is crazy. When his assistant came out to get me, she said, he's ready to see you now. Mr. So-and-so is ready to see you now. And I said, is his first name, XYZ? She said, yeah, how did you know that? I walk into his office, and majestic office, and he introduces himself. And I begin for the next 5 minutes to describe one of his homes. And he looked at me after, I'm with his mouth agape. He's like, how did you know that? And I said, do you remember I used to work for this tree service company my first summer out of college? And I said, I worked on your estate, and you're the only client's name I ever remember.
You were his landscaper, and you remembered him and pulled that out.
Hired me on the spot.
Interview. Oh yeah, I'd hire you on the spot too. One of my favorite. That is a phenomenal story. You end up running into your client who you did landscaping for, but he recognizes the talent. One of my favorite things I look for in a salesperson is an ability to connect the dots.
Yes, right.
I just think that's so powerful, because we're surrounded by information, but it's the way that we synthesize it and put it together that makes it useful. So you go to a conference, you meet 1,000 people, but do you know what to do with those connections?
Right.
And so I think that's really, really a fantastic story. We got people commenting here. Non says you're older than Google. Yeah, that's true. Most of us are.
That. Sure.
Rob Morehouse, good day. Good looking panel of blokes, and my lighting is on.
I like your haircut, Rob. I like your haircut.
That's nice. That's great. That's nice. You wax that, or how does that? Mike Falia, late to the game. Great to see you here, Hosea. Hosea, your story at the 500th Love and Relo episode celebration was amazing. That's awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was epic. People are still talking about that, Hosea. It's funny, right? You go to a conference, you hear speakers all the time, you hear panelists, blah, 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 right? And the thing that they remember is your story told authentically from the heart. And I feel like we're missing the boat sometimes by talking about interest rates when we could be talking about stuff that's more important.
Right.
Well, you're saying that, but the thing about us is that, I think there was always a really good connection. The relationship was there before there was any material or superficial value. I remember when I'm meeting you, it was like, once again, it's like meeting an old friend. And I'm sure maybe coming up in the same part of the world had something to do with it, but it's also, I mean, a lot of people from White Plains. I'm not friends with all of them, and likewise with Hosea, it's just really nice when you make those connections, and you can talk about things then that are about interest rates and how to because there's a warmth, there's a trust in it, there's a connection that makes it work and makes it believable. Yeah.
Well, the thing that caught my eye about you, Mel, was how smart you were dressed, how impeccable your suit and your tailoring, your haberdashery was on point. I saw you from across the room. I don't know if it was the gin and tonics or what, but I was like, man, that guy over there, I need to saunter over there and shake this guy's hand, see what this guy's about. And you did not disappoint.
Well, you're putting us all both to shame here with how fresh you look, my friend.
There you go.
Always looking smooth.
Thank you. Craig Donovan, 5% is tough. Doesn't 6% feel like a good new normal, at least for old guys like me who have seen higher? Craig, I know you've seen higher, but we've all changed over the years, right? I mean, what's your current mortgage rate at right now? Are you at 2%, 3%? I bet you're not at 6% right now. Because here's the thing, Craig, while 6% might feel normal to you, and I agree, like 6% would be welcome right now, would you move out of your 2.5% right now house and into a house at 6%? What would get you out of your current house right now?
For me, 4.5 or 5.
4.5 or 5. What's your current mortgage interest rate right now, Jose?
2.7.
2.7. Not bad. Not bad. You know, it's funny. I'm at cocktail parties these days and people start bragging about their interest rate. Like, yo, I'm rocking with that two flat. Somebody's like, yo, but I got a 1.9. You know, people are like, really, like, it's so much interest rate bragging right now going on. It's ridiculous.
Tim, well, that's why people don't want to move. I mean, that is extremely why people don't want to move.
Yeah, and especially if you buying a mansion like Hosea over there, you financing that thing at 6%, man. That's that Onassis money, man. You might as well buy a ship.
There you go.
You might as well buy a boat.
Ben, you remember 2 years ago I was moving. You remember I was moving to Arizona. You see, that didn't happen, right?
Yeah, man. A lot of things are on hold, man. But hey, it comes down to 3%. You might get that Arizona house. Tim Quirk says my first mortgage was 12%. Tim, what year was that? I'd love to know. No, I'm serious. I would love to know because I remember going to. I had the honor of interviewing Randy Wilson, the CEO of NEI Global, and I had the honor of interviewing her in her office. I think I was the first person that they let come into their office in Omaha post-COVID, right? Because they were in a bubble there, right? So they didn't want to let, especially some dirty guy like me come in there with the COVID, right? So anyway, I was the first person that came in there. I got to interview her. It was amazing. She's an incredible person. But she brought out a sheet of paper. God bless her. She brought out a sheet of paper like this, and it was a graph of the interest rate since my birth year, 1982, basically like 40 years of rates. And it was, I want to say it was 18% in 1982. And really the whole thing started up high and basically just went down like that. And then we were going through a blip. I think we were up around 4 or 5 at the time. And she was like, everybody's, basically her point was everybody's bugging out. But if you look back at what normal is, Tim.
Yeah, but homes were like 40, 50 grand back then, not.
That's true.
400 and 500,000.
People were, but nobody's buying starter houses anymore. Yeah, Tim Quirk saying 1992. Yeah, checks out. Non-Parks saying jumbo. Talking about me, Non, or the house? What are you talking about, Non? Come on, man. What are you doing, bro? Yeah, missing people from ERC work. Yeah, it's interesting. We can talk about this all day long, but hey, I want to get to the overrated, underrated. Mel, you want to play a game? All right, Jose.
Yes. Let's play overrated, underrated.
You're gonna have to sit this one out, all right, buddy?
No problem.
All right, let the players play. Here we go. Overrated, underrated. You know how to play this game, Mel? Mel,
I don't know, but I'm going to learn.
Okay, there's only 2 rules. All right, Mel? I'm going to give you a topic.
All right.
And you tell me if it's overrated or underrated. Rule number 2, gotcha. I then tell you if you are correct.
I like it. You sure you didn't? Were you ever in the Navy? Because there's 2 ways to do things. You know that, right? The wrong way in the Navy.
Hosea knows I was never in the Navy because I show up 15 minutes late to every meeting, which in Navy terms is on time. But nonetheless, you know where the saying "miss the boat" came from in the Navy. Let's see here. Jason Hall says my favorite part of the show. Everybody get in the comments and let everybody know what you think. Today is opposite day, so Ray Hardy is technically correct, even though there's a lot of hate.
Oh my God.
A lot of hate coming from Ray.
Oh no, yeah,
Ray. We call him Hater Hardy in this in around these parts here. Ray, you're banned, Ray. Can somebody ban Ray? All right, here we go. Ray's banned. Okay. Overrated, underrated. Number 1, deep dish pizza.
Overrated completely. I'm from New York.
Listen, I'm gonna give you 20 words or less to defend yourself. Okay. Why is it overrated?
That's not pizza. That's a casserole. That's the first thing.
But it's good though, man. It's good. Listen, it ain't a New York slice. It ain't a big slice that you fold. You can eat in one hand. It's not that for sure. But it's a different thing.
Okay. New York, New Jersey, Philly.
All right. I submit to you this.
Okay, enough said.
I submit to you this. The pizza began as the tomato pie. What is more like a tomato pie than a deep dish pizza?
I don't know what it started out as, but it can't finish like that.
Mel said, I ain't started, but I'm going to finish it. Okay, here we go. Fine. Deep dish pizza. Yeah. You know what? I think you're wrong. I think it's underrated. I think there's too much hate going around for the deep dish pizza and the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. And I'm out here to set the record straight. You give me a Lou Malnati's with the sausage in there, okay, and the big chunky tomatoes and the onions. Yeah, I'm going to wait 40 minutes, but I'm really smart. I'm going to call ahead, okay? And then a couple of beers, a couple of slices. I like to take it home, put it in the fridge, wake up in the morning after a long night in Chicago, 4 o'clock bars, and crush that pie in the morning too, okay? You can't do that with that New York pizza.
Ben, I love everything about Chicago except that pizza.
Paul says, I'm from Chicago. Deep dish is overrated and it's tourist food. No, you know what's overrated, Paul? Portillo's. At me. All right, let's go. Let's go. Elena saying a casserole, got to use that. You're banned too, Elena. All right, I love you, Elena. Sorry, just kidding, but really. All right, next. Hank Aaron and Stan Musial. Overrated, underrated?
Both underrated. Underrated, both of them, underrated. That is the 3rd and the 4th all-time hits leaders in baseball, all time.
You know, that's a really good point because Hank Aaron
never gets his due.
Hank Aaron had what, 714 home runs or something like that? Thereabouts?
755 he ended his career. 755 he ended his career, 755. And now people think about him as lifetime 305 hitter. 3,700 hits. Only Ty Cobb and Pete Rose have more hits than Hank Aaron. And only Ty Cobb, Pete Rose, and Hank Aaron have more hits than Stan Musial. 3,600 plus, 328 lifetime hitter, over 400 home runs. Nobody ever talks about Stan Musial. And Hank Aaron is, yes, he's the all-time, in my mind, all-time home run leader, but he is one of the greatest baseball players, period.
Wow.
Period.
Yeah, you make a heck of a case there for Hammer and Hank. And what was Stan? Did Stan have a nickname?
And Stan the Man.
Stan the Man.
St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, all right.
Stan the Man.
Fair enough.
Stan the
Man. You know what? You redeem yourself. And because there's 2 of them, you actually make back the point you lost in the last round. So you're now actually technically 2 for 2 because this is the first time we've ever given extra credit on this segment here. Yes, Paul, there's a little hate going around. Listen, it takes one to know one. Non-Park, I don't see Maggiano's offer deep dish pizza on the menu as tomato pie or not. Non, you know what? Listen, this is when the lawyers come on and they start reading the fine print. Okay, not uncalled for. All right, uncalled for. All right, next topic. Tesla, overrated or underrated? Overrated. You know what? I'm gonna give.
I have a Tesla, so I'm gonna say
I'm gonna give that one to you.
Underrated.
You think it's underrated? How is it possible to be underrated? Is it not the most valuable auto company in the worworld? Didn't it?
I'm not talking about it from its market value. I'm talking about it from the design of a car. That grill, they have to change that grill. That's
yeah. They call Paul Wall, tell him to give you a grill. Hey, check this out. Check this out, though. But let me tell you something.
Right.
The problem. I actually met Paul Wall at the Grammys.
It needs to be candy coated, dripping.
Yeah.
You know.
So here's the problem with Tesla. I got in Hosea's Tesla one night. Okay. Never got out. Never got out of it. Okay. You need grease. You need some Crisco just to get in the thing. Okay. It has no room at all. If you are not a 28-year-old living off ramen in the Bay, you cannot fit into a Tesla. All right. Teslas, they need big boy cars. You spend that much money.
Out of my Tesla, man.
Even the SUV is tiny. You notice they got an SUV. It's 6 figures, and it's now. You know where Tesla really performs, in my opinion, is the interface. The whole like big iPad in the middle thing. Unreal. Love it.
Listen, that part is great, but the car has to say something to me from the outside in, and from the outside in, he could have done a better job.
Adrian saying Tesla's way overrated. Prefer German engineering. That's a whole nother ball game. Talk about you go from having amazing electronics in the Tesla to having like basically 2 tin cans and a string in the BMW, but nonetheless. Non-Park, would Hosea invest in having Tesla trucks in the company? Hosea, you ran a moving company for 20 decades. Would you own Tesla trucks in your moving company?
Yeah, I would say yes, because they're great for local. I mean, it costs me $8 a month to charge my car, man.
Yeah, all right.
Well,
It's fair.
I
It's
don't want to
still
plug
overrated.
anybody, but there's I look at the Rivian. Look at the Rivian. Look at that impressive when it comes towards
that is a nice
right.
design.
That's nice. That's nice.
The Rivian design,
yeah. All right, you know what? You're 3 for 3, Mel. It is overrated. Sorry, Hosea. Hosea's banned. All right. Next. I love having my own show. I get to make all the rules. This is great. Next, working at the office, overrated or underrated? Proceed carefully.
Yikes. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. That's a toss up. I still miss some of the camaraderie of being in the office, but I'm in sales, so you're always around all over the place, and so you can't miss what you don't have, I guess. So
I'm sorry. Rule number 1 is you have to select overrated or underrated. No, you can't. Rule number 1 is overrated or underrated are your 2 options.
It is underrated. It's underrated.
Underrated. Working at the office is underrated. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Like maybe a hybrid role would be great.
Hosea, you're unbanned. What do you think about this? Overrated or underrated?
I don't know. I love getting up, coming to the office, man. I tell you. So it's been changed the game for me. From my perspective, what just having the accounting team just in for all this week, place to meet accounts and clients. You need an office. So gotta have it.
You know, it's funny. This week was rough. I came out and I think it was Tuesday, and my tire was flat. And I had to get an Uber to work. I got an Uber to the office. I had to get an Uber back to get my car. I had to drive my car to the shop, drop it off, Uber back. All the shenanigans. And honestly, I enjoyed all of that. I enjoyed all the ridiculousness. I enjoy the traffic in the morning. I like talking to my dad on the phone. I like crushing a podcast or a book on tape. I like the fact that I get home after work. It gives me a nice 20-minute buffer before leaving the office and walking in and seeing the kids. I got to decompress and get my mind right, and everything like that. I brought donuts in today. I like all of it. It's short of cleaning the coffee pot, which thank God, the staff does a phenomenal job with that. I love all of it, man. I really do. I miss it.
Yeah.
So we're all agreed that it's underrated, right?
Yeah. All right, last one here. Rugby World Cup, overrated or underrated?
Totally underrated. Underrated. Wow.
Why?
It is an incredible game. It is nonstop action, even if you don't understand everything that's going on. And the thing about it is that America has a really good rugby team. We haven't made we didn't make the most recent World Cup, but we made the World Cup, and then the games are on these most obscure channels at 2:00 in the morning, and we could be a rugby powerhouse with all the people that play football or contact sport in this country. And the stadiums in France were packed. It was packed. And you know what else is great about it? You can commit to an hour and 90 minutes and move on with the rest of your day.
It's not a 3-hour commitment. Let me ask you this. You ever play rugby, Mel?
No, not formally, hanging out with friends. My youngest brother played at the military academy, though. And I'll tell you what the coolest thing he said about rugby was. He said, Mel, when I was playing lacrosse, we'd go to upstate New York. We'd go to, Virginia, Maryland. When we're playing rugby, we'd be going to the Bahamas, Bermuda. These tournaments were in some fantastic places. So, yeah.
So I went to a rugby game, Quinnipiac versus Albany, when I was going to school upstate New York, right? And what I like about rugby
New York, yes, absolutely.
is it's one of the few sports that successfully combines athletics and drinking. And at the end of the rugby match, the ruggers take off. I don't know how they choose whose shoe they're using for this, but they take somebody's shoe and they fill it with a beer, and then they chug the beer out of the shoe, and they call it shooting the boot. You ever shot the boot?
Yeah. No, I've never drank anything out of anybody else's
But you didn't rule out your own shoe. I like how you did that. That was a subtle move there.
I have to be very thirsty, and there's a shortage of glasses and no bottles. I don't know what I can't even foresee that scenario, but that's a pretty funny story. Obviously, you see why rugby is underrated.
You know what? I'll give that one to you. It is underrated.
The best thing about the game is people from like on all our sizes could play that game and on the same team. And it's great. So that was pretty cool.
I was going to ask you about that because my son, who's 8, wants to play rugby, but he can't chug a beer.
Give him a few years.
I don't know if there's like a program we could put him in or something like that.
That's a non-alcoholic program, Dan.
Is there? Okay, wonderful. This has been amazing. We've gone over because it's incredible. I could see why somebody would talk to you for 10 hours in one day. This is phenomenal, Mel, Hosea. But you know what? We're talking about rugby. We're talking about international athletics, et cetera, et cetera. Hosea, last question. I heard you are a minority owner in a American football club in Paris called the Paris Musketeers. Is that true or false?
That is definitely true. The Paris Musketeers. I'm now being a managing owner. So
a managing owner. That means you got another job?
Yep, pretty much. So we're recruiting now from other teams with hotels, travel.
So you're handling you're managing like the travel program and stuff as well now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm involved in those decisions and stuff as well now. So it's a lot of fun. You know, we can't wait to get over to Paris next year and get the new team going again. You know, training camp starts May 1st. So we're excited, man.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Paris Musketeers, American football in Paris.
I think that's incredible.
I'm going to dust off that. I'm going to dust off my high school French and see if I can get a job in player personnel. I know the owner.
There you go.
I want to go call a game. I want to go over there and like actually go to a game. I follow you on Instagram. I follow the Paris Musketeers on Instagram. It's an incredible follow. Your social media is on fire. The clips are unreal. You feel the passion. It's fun to watch you guys. I think you won the first game, then you had a rough patch, and then you guys really started to gel at the end because it's a brand new team, right? It's the first year.
Yeah. First year in the league. We went 6-6. I think London is going to be offered a team this year. There's 2 more teams coming in. There's 18 teams in the European Football League and European League Football. Sorry, that's the way ELF.
Right.
So, but I think there's 2 teams coming out, London, and I can't remember what other country was offered a team.
Aaron Almond is saying, "Yeah, baby, I am willing to help recruit players." Word of caution: be careful with the interview process. Aaron, you seem like you have ulterior motives.
Well, you know that there can only be 4 American players on each team, 2 on offense, 2 on defense.
What's the Instagram handle for? I think it's Paris Musketeers.
For Paris Musketeers, yeah.
At Paris Musketeers, something like that, Jay. Yeah, it's a great follow.
Well, I think Ben, you think a travel trip is in the works then? We got to go.
Here's the problem, man. I get to Paris. I get to Paris, man. Y'all gonna bamboozle me into going to Ukraine, man. I see it. I'm like, nah, man. I'm chilling over here in Paris, man. Don't get me going to the Ukraine, dude. All right. I'm too fat for Qatar. Don't get me going to the Ukraine. I don't got the insurance for it. All right. Listen, man. I'm gonna stay put over here and watch another match. This has been phenomenal. I have a ton of fun with you guys. Thanks so much for being here. Mel Smith, Hosea Bottley at Aaversal Global Relocation. Appreciate y'all for being here today.
Thank you, man. This has been awesome, man. As always.